Hi everyone and welcome. Today's presentation is on assessment in mathematics and we'll be focusing on the number and algebra strand of the Australian curriculum. Assessment in mathematics has a direct impact upon students' teaching and learning experience. It is a central process in education and, as William states, is essentially the bridge between teaching and learning. These are the assessment strategies we're going to focus on. I'll be critiquing them in terms of formative assessment as it provides the most benefit to students in mathematics. I'll discuss their purpose, benefits and limitations, as well as give recommendations for record keeping and reporting. Let's start with questioning. Questioning enables teachers to gain insight and understanding of students' knowledge. It highlights misconceptions and helps identify assumptions. It also gives teachers the ability to promote productive thinking in their students, regardless if questions are open or closed. William says, when children give an answer, wrong or right, they're learning. A limitation with group questioning is some students may dominate this time. Williams suggests to overcome this, teachers should choose students at random to answer, increasing levels of student engagement as each student knows they're at risk of being asked. This also provides equal opportunity to develop all important higher order thinking skills. In saying this, in order to support students and build their confidence and motivation, thinking time is critical as well as follow-up questions. The Australian curriculum requires Year 2 students to recognise and represent division as grouping into equal sets and solve simple problems using these representations. Using a concrete material such as counters, I would share a number of counters between a number of students. I would ask questions such as, is this fair? Why or why not? How would I write this as a sum? To record students' responses, I would use anecdotal notes as they are quick and easy to jot down so I can remain engaged in the lesson and they assist me to remember important points. To ensure these are relevant and useful, they must be dated and the responses from students should correspond with their name. Let's move on to observations, one of the most common assessment strategies used and should not be underestimated. In some cases, they provide the only way of obtaining evidence about particular learning outcomes, such as real-life projects and group work. Observations can assess strengths and weaknesses, as well as social and emotional development, which is just as important as academic development. Unfortunately, observations can often be subjective as teachers subconsciously have fixed expectations. Using a checklist as a recording strategy can help overcome this barrier. Let's look at Year 4 now. For an example, under the money and financial substrand, students are to solve problems involving purchases and the calculation of change to the nearest 5 cents with and without digital technologies. A simple small group activity of shops could be observed quite discreetly, therefore cause no stress to students about being assessed and provide teachers with data for a range of purposes. The checklist may look something like this, where the teacher would tick or use a code to distinguish what level the student is at. A comment section is also useful to include any points to remember and to refer back to. Anecdotal notes are usually quite common for observations, but for this authentic simulation, a checklist allows teachers to clearly identify what level students are at, as opposed to reading through a large number of written notes. Lastly, work samples. Fantastic as evidence when reporting to stakeholders such as parents. As assessment strategies, they're not time consuming because they're part of the daily routine. It's what we do with these samples though that determines their worth. Displaying them can boost student self-esteem levels as they appreciate the final product. But when used in a portfolio, for example, they can appreciate their progress to success more. Some students perform better with hands-on mathematical tasks as opposed to written ones, so apps like Seesaw allow students to film and explain their understanding. These work samples can also be included in digital portfolios and actually provide a better insight into thought processing and problem-solving techniques. Using Year 6 as an example, under the fractions and decimals substrand, students are to make connections between equivalent fractions, decimals and percentages. A game of fractions bingo could be played using a similar card to this one. As a teacher calls one out, students may need to convert options to cross it off their board. The work sample would be their card with their workings out. Recording this sample in a portfolio along with other relative samples shows student progression over time and can be used as evidence to report to parents in interviews or even to pass on to the teacher for the following year. To summarise, questioning, observations and work samples are just 3 assessment strategies that can provide teachers with insight to students' mathematical knowledge and, when recorded correctly, can report important information to a variety of stakeholders. Using strategies regularly and in conjunction is best, as Hattie says, and therefore can have the best impact on students' teaching and learning experience. Thanks for listening.